Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, Vincent LaRusso and I are going to be doing a live chat talking all about the latest announcements on the Kiss Storms Vegas event. We'll also give our thoughts and our opinions on the Bon Jovi event that's set to take place in Nashville in a few months. Lots to cover in this episode. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. We certainly look forward to seeing and reading all of your opinions as well. So let's jump in and let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today's an exciting treat, something I've never done before, a in-person podcast episode. But you're going to notice, the chair is empty right now. But the surroundings may or may not look a little familiar. Who could it be? Please welcome to the show, my buddy, my comrade, Vincent LaRusso.
Hola.
How you doing, buddy?
Good.
We've been saying, for 2 years we wanted to do one of these in person, right? And,
yeah. And it's extremely uncomfortable.
It's pretty funny because we said we wanted to do this in person. We got together today to kind of prepare for something that we may be doing.
Correct.
And you were like, we should finally do that in-person podcast. And I was like, well, what are we going to talk about? You sprung this on me, I don't know, an hour before this or so. And you got the setup going for us. And it is nice to be in person in your humble abode over here.
Thank you.
Your surroundings and your 8,000 records and your 400 guitars and
401
900 amps. 401. Yeah. Okay, very good.
And that's usually the screen I'm staring at watching you. So
look at that.
It's kind of similar. I'm usually looking this way, but it's more to the right of the screen.
Look at that. All right. Well, thanks. And
that's a fabulous logo, by the way.
What a who did that?
I don't know.
Oh man.
I actually don't.
I should hire whoever did that and pay them no dollars to do it for me.
Yes. Isn't that the going rate?
I think it is. At least for my podcast, the going rate is no dollars.
Yes.
But no. So we said, we did a podcast episode last week where we were speaking about the Kiss Storms Vegas event, and at the time there was no announcements beyond Paul and Gene really as to who was going to be there, and then literally we released the episode on Monday. And about 4 hours later, they make an announcement. So you're like, well, we should come on and talk about that, a little update. So
Absolutely.
I said, this is a good in-person topic to cover. And I'm sorry if anybody's watching, when you saw the empty chair, if you were expecting a quality guest like a Gene Simmons or Paul Stanley.
Oh, he's coming.
I'm sorry. I got Vincent instead.
Gene's coming. He had to go get bagels.
Okay, yeah. So you just keep watching and watching and watching, and maybe Gene will show up.
Yeah.
If not,
this is what you got.
This is what you got. But no, so on Monday they announced that Tommy Thayer, let's start there, was going to be at this KISS event. And I know when we did the episode last week, you were at 100% that Tommy Thayer was going to be there, and I was at 99%. Mm-hmm. So I think it's fair to say neither of us were really surprised at this announcement, right?
No. I mean, again, knowing that Tommy has worked with Gene and Paul even before he was officially a member. Well, was he an official member, or when you're hired? Is that you're not officially a member?
Not really officially a member, I guess.
So he was
part of the KISS camp for 20 plus years.
Right, which is incredible. So I knew there was no doubt that he was going to be a part of this. That's how I felt. And but on the other side of that, which I'm sure you'll get to it a little bit, but yeah, it's great to see that Tommy's going to be involved. He's a great guy. He's been a great, as they say, soldier for the band, and. I really have nothing negative to ever say about, Tommy.
I can't imagine outside of people not being happy with him wearing the makeup, and I understand that. But I can't imagine anybody ever being unhappy with Tommy as a member of Kiss and what he's done for the band for 25 years. Except for Ace. That's fair. That's very fair. But, it'll be interesting. Obviously, there's no announcement of Ace Frehley or Peter Criss being there, nor did I expect that, nor do I even anticipate that they're going to be there.
Right.
But it'll be interesting if Ace does show, if they perform again together like they did on the Kiss Cruise in whatever it was, 2016, 17, 18. I don't know, the years become a blur. Without the makeup, I think that's certainly a possibility.
Yeah.
But they did say that Tommy was going to perform with Paul and Gene.
On or off the docks?
He's going to be off the docks for that one. So he is going to perform with Paul and Gene and probably with Black and Blue, who was also announced as well. So I guess the first thing to me that just jumps off the page with this is that clearly this is being billed as Paul and Gene with special guests, which we knew. And even adding somebody like Tommy, he is kind of seen a little bit as a special guest. Does that take you by surprise at this point?
I think they have to bill it that way because and we haven't mentioned it yet, but I think we all know where we're going here. Without Eric Singer, who's, I'm not saying it's impossible. I mean, maybe there's something going on. Maybe there's a negotiation that they're working out that they haven't worked out. That they kind of have to bill it that way. Because you can't say Kiss, right? You can't really say that. No. In my opinion.
No, you can't.
They say whatever they want. Let's face facts.
That's true.
Kiss is really Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley has been for many, many years. It's
I
interesting.
think you just made some of the viewers unhappy with that comment, but I don't disagree with you.
I know. But what I was going to say was that, one of the exciting things about when Kiss reunited for the reunion tour, and was that in 96?
96,
yes. It really felt like the band as Kiss was back, even though we knew contractually there was,
Right. But it felt like
Kiss the band.
Agreed.
And then who originally left? Was it Peter left first or Eric?
Ace left first.
Right.
Then Peter left.
Right.
No, Peter left first.
Okay.
Peter left first. Then Ace left. Then Peter came back.
back. Symphony. That's right. Yes.
Exactly.
So then it started getting into the mishmash category, I think that having Tommy as a special guest is appropriate, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't personally have a problem with it either. I kind of feel it goes right hand in hand what we just spoke about last time, that it's going to be a unique type of performance. I don't think this is going to be open with Detroit Rock City, then play Deuce, then play Shout Out Loud. God, I hope not. So I think just building it this way just kind of feels like it's going to be different.
Yeah.
Now, saying that, I've seen some people saying on my page and online that they feel this is Kiss's way of, at least right now, not calling it a Kiss show. It's Paul and Gene's special guest. Look, Eric Singer's not even going to be there, but at some point it'll be, Eric Singer's going to be there and it'll be a quote-unquote Kiss performance, but that this is the way to kind of...
Until Dee Snider comes running on the stage.
Exactly. That would be hilarious. Yeah. Imagine if they invited Dee Snider and he showed up. That would actually be great. But some people feel as if this is a way to kind of ease into it from a media point of view and try to keep away some of the negativity and not have all four members of Kiss at first. I don't think that's at all what's happening here. Mm-hmm. But I've seen some people comment on my Facebook page saying that. So do you think that that's what's happening? Is that they're trying to prevent this negative press, and if it's not the four members of Kiss, and it kind of doesn't make that Kiss is returning in a year and a half after that final show?
I think it's been calculated. I think,
it's calculated?
Yeah, I think so, and I think it should be, honestly. It's funny. I think I've seen different things. The last Kiss show. This was the last show. The last show. Well, it's not the last show.
Right.
Yeah, you could say it's the last show of makeup. Well, you can. I don't know if officially yet. You never
That's
know.
True. You never know.
But yeah.
Well, since then, we know Paul's already put the makeup on for the, what is it? He did a commercial for...
Oh, did he?
Yeah, what is Workday? I think for Workday.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's him, Billy Idol, and Gwen Stefani.
Oh, I didn't see that.
For pretending to be in an office setting and pretend you and I are employees, and they're like, "Oh, Vin, you're a rock star." And then Billy Idol shows up. "You're not a rock star." And then Gwen Stefani shows up. "I'm a rock star."
And the screen shaver.
Yeah. Thank you. You see, this is the kind of stuff I put up with.
This is amateur hour. How dare this happen?
How dare that happen? Exactly.
I'm trying to add some ambiance.
Oh, is that what it is? Some ambiance. But then Paul Stanley shows up, and it's actually, to me, there's a 2-minute version of the commercial. It's actually pretty funny. I'll send it to you after this so you can check it out. But point being, Paul put the makeup back on now once after they said they were never going to wear the makeup again. So the seal's been broken a little bit, at least in my mind. But do you think, no, that's totally different, it's not a performance?
I think it's a performance. I think it certainly is a performance.
Okay.
I mean, listen, I never truly thought when we saw that last show that they were never going to get on the stage again together, the two of them.
Right.
I always felt like there was going to be some sort of opportunity. I think there might have even been rumors at the time of still doing, cruises and stuff like that. And to me, I always thought, like, if you're going to do a Kiss cruise and none of the Kiss members there, you're just going to make a Kiss theme. I don't know,
Right.
Unless you're really selling it well with a lot of the bands or former Kiss members, I don't know, without having those guys actually there.
Yep.
So
is it bothering you that that's
this is driving me nuts?
So why don't you take a moment and change
I
it?
will have to do that.
You feel better now that you got the screen back?
That stressed me out, I gotta say. Really did.
He was stressed, I'm telling you. You gotta see that. So
yeah.
So obviously you still think, though, I feel that Eric Singer is going to be there.
I still think there's a chance. I don't know why.
Okay.
I really don't. I mean, it just feels out of place, I guess, in my mind. But maybe this is...
If he's not there, do any drummers come in mind that you say, hey, I wouldn't mind seeing this person play with them?
That's a great question.
Because
I didn't think about that.
Honestly, I don't think it'll be Peter Criss. As much as I would love it, let's be honest, he's going to be 80 years old a few weeks after this event. I don't see Peter being the guy playing drums for an entire show with them.
Who's playing with Gene right now?
Top of my head, I don't even remember.
I like that guy. He's good.
Yeah, he is, right? Is it Brian Tichy? It might be Brian Tichy.
Oh, okay. That's a nice choice.
Yeah.
Which is, that's a good question. Like, who would I?
What if they bring in the Fig?
Oh, with or without the Newtons?
Without the Newtons.
That'd be awesome. If they brought in Anton.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be great for Anton too.
Yeah. What if they bring in the Fig and they play Dynasty front to back?
Then I'd be really regretting not going.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, listen. I don't know, Carmine Appice or Peace, however you pronounce it. That'd be really cool, just because he has a tie to Paul. He's just a legendary guy. And good guy. But yeah, I don't know. This is gonna be interesting. I get the feeling it's gonna be more lower level, more of a lesser of a name. I don't know why.
Probably, I tend to agree with you there.
Like, who was the guy who was playing with the Ace Frehley band, the Gene Simmons band? Was it the guy we met?
Matt Starr?
No, well, there's Matt. There's, of course, Matt. But there was another guy when we went on the cruise, because Matt wasn't there. Who was the drummer who played with Bruce Kulick?
Oh, Brent Fitz.
Right, yes.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, something like that.
It definitely could be.
Yeah.
Definitely could be.
That would
and
be a
look,
good choice.
that would be a quality choice, either one of those guys.
And is he the one who sings also?
I think they both could sing a little bit,
right.
so
I've seen it.
they could definitely hold some background vocals or whatever. Quite honestly, if it's any of those, even Anton, I don't want to see them doing Black Diamond and that guy singing it, So, but any of those guys that we just mentioned can certainly hold down the fort and I think be a great addition. I tend to think Singer is still going to be there. I'd love to understand what's going on behind the scenes. It definitely sticks out at this point like a sore thumb that he's not there. But
are you seeing chatter about that on any of your
nothing
avenues?
Beyond what I said last time? Just that people saying that supposedly Eric didn't even know about this event until it was announced. Again, I don't believe that. Not for a second.
I find that like hard to believe.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I know he was with Bruce 10 days or 2 weeks before that. You're going to say the topic didn't come up once.
And how long did he play with Bruce?
3 hours.
All right, so it's not like the guy can't play for... No. Probably only going to play for an hour, let's face facts.
Right, exactly. No,
Eric
could definitely do it. But look, a lot of people felt Eric seemed disinterested the last year in Kiss. Could he be like, I'm done with this. I'm in my 60s. I don't want to keep doing this.
I'm not going to buy that one. I think because it's a weekend, it's probably one performance.
Okay.
You're with these guys who you're with for 20 plus years. We know he's got a good relationship with Paul. He's done the Soul Station thing, so I don't think there's anything problem there. But maybe there is some other thing that happened that we don't know about. Maybe there was something. Has there been any? Because I know he's been with Bruce, but has there been anything where you've seen, whether it's an event or something, where Eric has been with Gene or Paul at anything in the last since they did their last show that you ever remember seeing?
Not that I can recall seeing off the top of my head. No.
Just trying to connect the dots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, look, that's a good question. Not that I'm aware of, but I could have missed something in the last year and a half, definitely.
Yeah.
But nothing jumps off the page at me right away that says, oh, yeah, Eric would. In fact, to that point, the last Madison Square Garden show, we were at it, so we didn't watch the pay-per-view, but I've been told from people who did watch the pay-per-view that even backstage, you really didn't see Eric. You saw Paul, you saw Gene, you saw Tommy, but Eric was kind of nowhere to be found. So did he just pack up his sticks and leave that night? I doubt it.
Something's up.
Yeah, it seems.
And we know he does. He's on time. He loves watches. Again, we'll talk about that.
We spoke about that last time.
So, something's up.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Now, there were other announcements also besides just the Tommy thing. I mentioned Black and Blue, also Sebastian Bach, big Kiss fan. So to me, last episode we spoke about the guest having a Kiss tie until you mentioned Stephen Pearcy and Warren DeMartini, and I was like, oh, that would be good. But I said I want a Kiss tie, and Sebastian Bach to me is a nice Kiss tie. We know he's a huge Kiss fan. Seeing somebody like him added to the bill, there'll be more bands than just Sebastian Bach, obviously, but is that a good first band that you feel, or first artist that's added?
Well, I think, we know this Sebastian's been front and center at Kiss shows, all these years seeing the band. I think it is a good start, but to me it's not enough. I would like to see a lot more. Yeah. Or let's say, one or two more, bands or artists who have that Kiss tie to be added to the show at this point.
Yeah. No, look, I agree. I've already got my tickets to go, and if it was just Kiss, Bruce Kulick, and Sebastian Bach, well, I'll watch all three, and I'll enjoy all three. But over a 3-day period, I feel like I need more, and I believe in my heart of hearts there's going to be more based on the conversations that I've already had with Pop House, etc. So I believe there will be more, but if it was only these bands, and I know Black and Blue is there as well, and there's some Kiss cover bands, and that's all to me, that's nice, but I need more bands of the Sebastian Bach level caliber. And I know last time we mentioned like Night Ranger is somebody that comes up in conversations that a lot of Kiss fans loved on the cruise. I hope they add a few more bands like that just to kind of round out the 3 days. Otherwise, I think it would feel a little empty the days. In my heart of hearts, based on the conversations I have, I believe they're going to be adding more. And it's not going to be because tickets aren't selling well. I've seen people say online that, they only announced this because they want to see how ticket sales go. No, even on the cruises, they would announce things in phases. So I truly do believe that there'll be more bands added. And I guess, as Asia said, only time will tell.
Steve Harris walks in again. To the wrong rehearsal.
Yes. Yeah. Steve Harris plays bass in every band. When we sing a song, I play the Steve Harris bass line all the time. Now, what are your thoughts with the the Kiss cover bands being added?
I mean, listen, I'd be a hypocrite because I play in a Kiss. Well, that's a Kiss. Mr. Speed's a Kiss tribute band, isn't it?
That's true. Yes, Mr. Speed. Yes.
And the other one is.
I'd have to look it up off the top of my head.
But are they a tribute also?
Yes, they're both. It's a Kiss Nation.
Okay.
A Kiss tribute show.
Right. So let's be. We know we always like to define that.
Yep.
And what I was going to say is like being in a Kiss cover band. It's like somewhat a little hypocritical for me to say, I wouldn't want to enjoy that. But honestly, I don't want to say anything, to slight any of those two bands because I know they're awesome. But do you really need two?
Right.
And unless they're doing that because of scheduling to make sure everybody gets to see, I don't know if there's going to be overlap. I don't know. I'd rather see one less tribute band and one other, mid-tier band that we've come to know and love.
Would you have rather see one Kiss tribute band than let's just say like a Motley Crue tribute band? Or would you rather see two Kiss tribute bands? If they play, let's just say one does, hey, we'll only do the first 3 albums, and the other one says we'll only do the next 3 studio albums. Right? Would you rather see 2 Kiss tribute bands or a Kiss tribute and a... I said Motley Crue, but fill in the blank. Somebody else. Guns N' Roses. I don't know.
I think I'd rather see one Kiss tribute band and another band, one of my favorite bands. Because then I would really feel like I got my share of the tribute thing because they do it so well. I mean, I'm not going to go there with a scorecard. Let me see who sang Deuce better. Okay, exactly. I give Mr. Speed a 9.
Would you rather it be a tribute band or a cover band that maybe just does songs from the 70s and 80s?
No, I'd rather it be a tribute band.
Okay.
I think a tribute band, because the reason why I say that, and listen, I play in cover bands, so I'm not trying to say anything against cover bands, but tribute bands, I feel like they have to do a bit more because they're trying to be that band.
Right.
If you're a Kiss band, obviously you put on the makeup. If you're Motley Crue, you might pick an era of the band to kind of look like them and have the outfits or the instruments that are there. So I just feel like it's more of a show. So I'd rather have that.
Yeah, on the cruise they had a number of times bands that were like 80s cover bands, and they would dress up playing the part and all of that of an 80s band with the big wigs and all of that. And to me that was fun. And part of me actually likes that better than a Motley Crue tribute band or a Guns N' Roses tribute band because you're going to get the best of the 80s type of thing, and then that's just all fun to me. So I don't think it fits with the theme. 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 I don't think it fits with what if they, and we don't know if they're going to do this, but what if they did theme nights and it was a 70s theme night, an 80s theme night, and a 90s theme night? I'm just making this up right now. And the 70s theme night was the Kiss cover bands, and the 80s theme night was an 80s cover band doing like all the best of the hair metal stuff. And
that's not a bad idea, you know.
Now it's staying with the theme. I'm making this up, right? Pop House, if you're watching that, I think that's a brilliant idea. You should do that. But anyway,
absolutely.
No, but then how do you feel?
Yeah, I like the idea of you know, I mean, imagine you go into a show, you know, they go from, you know, so Just Got Lucky by Doc and you know and then they're doing like, you know, Way Cool Jr. into, you know, you know, Rock Me, you know, or whatever, you know, and not I'm talking about not the well, Rock Me is an obvious choice, but not the obvious bands, not the obvious choice, you know, that would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like when you go see Bruce play and he was doing like, you know, Burn Bitch Burn or, you know, whatever you hear
songs you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, I would enjoy that a lot.
Yeah. To me, and I'm thinking out loud right now as we're doing this, it would be fun if there was like, let's say, Kiss tribute bands on 70s night, and I'm totally now planning the whole event for Pop House here, but if there's Kiss tribute bands for 70 night and then Kiss performed as the headliner, 80s day you could have a Kiss, not an 80s cover band and have Bruce playing 80s music. And the 90s, you could have, I don't know, a grunge cover band and Bruce playing songs from the 90s, right? So then it kind of fits every night, and every night feels different. This kind of sounds exciting to me, sorry. But probably a lot of Kiss fans would be like, oh, please don't have a cover band with Nirvana and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains, but I think that would kind of be cool, actually.
I think it would be cool. I still don't think it fits the theme.
I think you're probably right.
You know, I think...
And I'm thinking of this off the top of my head right
I'm just
now.
saying about, you said about the Nirvanas, the Alice in Chains and those, but the Dawkins and the, you know, the Rats and the Motley Crues was really of that ilk, you know, I think is more appropriate. Well, especially a lot of people are going to be very sensitive that was the era, the 90s grunge that killed all that music.
Absolutely. You know? But, and I'm just playing the other side of the coin here for a moment, if you had a 90s cover band doing those songs, and then Bruce and his band came on and did Carnival of Souls front to back, that'd be a pretty fun night to me. Yeah. And I'm not a huge Carnival of Souls guy. Yeah. But that would be a really unique evening. I would bet my last dollar that this is never going to happen. I'm just literally thinking off the top of my head here. But, yeah, I think the cover bands are kind of neat and fun. Quite honestly, I won't go out of my way to see them, with no disrespect. I think they got probably two of the best tribute bands out there to be there. But I'm hoping that there are still some more Night Ranges and those types of bands. Cheap Trick that was on the Kiss Cruise. I hope there's bands like that still that are added. But only time will tell. Thank you.
That was a horrible rendition of the
synthesizer.
That
was a really bad rendition, yes. But it's interesting also, the last thing I think of is that, you know, ticket sales during the pre-sale seem to go extremely well. Like a lot of ticket sales were going out the door. And now things seem to have slowed down a little bit. No surprise with the public on sale. Do you think ultimately this will be a sellout?
I think it's going to be determined. I think if it stood as it is today, and they were just adding maybe one more band that was like, I don't think it will.
Right.
I think they'd need a couple of, I mean, I'd say heavyweights, but a couple with some weight to really go, ooh. You know?
So with that in mind, do you think, just keep using the same example, a Night Ranger is enough of a weight?
Just the one?
To sell out? Night Ranger and, I don't know, Tesla. I don't know. I just thought of something.
No. I don't think that's going to put them over the edge to sell out. And no disrespect to those two bands.
Who I love both bands, but I agree with you.
I'm just trying to think without saying like, oh, you know, Motley Crue and, you know, Guns N' Roses.
Right. Not realistic.
Right. That's a hard one because when you're talking all those, and I hate to call them B-level bands, they're not, you know, that's not what I mean by that. I'm just talking about
some of my
success.
favorite bands. Night Ranger and Tesla are two of my favorite bands. Right.
In success.
Yes.
Okay? If you're talking about the Dawkins and the Teslas and the Rats and, you know, whomever, Great Whites, Kicks, whoever, right? You know, those are the pool they're going to probably be looking into, you know? They're not going to be able to, I don't think, you know. But I'll turn this around to you. What if they only got one more band and it was like Guns N' Roses or something like that?
It would sell out instantly because Guns N' Roses would become a headliner.
Right, exactly.
That's
true. So that's a bad example. But I'm trying to something on that level.
Def Leppard.
Right. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Right.
Or it could be Poison. Or it could be right.
Yeah.
I think that would do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now I know I mentioned to you earlier when I first got here today, and I don't think you had seen it, but Bon Jovi announced doing a 3-day event like this also. And one of the things that I've read that they've announced...
Is that the Lockdown Tour?
Yes, it is the lockdown tour, exactly. No, one of the things that they
want to
announced...
explain that one?
No, I don't. You could. Go ahead.
Oh, you know where I'm going with this,
I
right?
think I do, but you go ahead.
So from what I understand is that they're not going to allow cameras or phones that you're going to have
And
to
that's
walk
exactly where I wanted to go with this.
yes.
So, exactly. So they're not going to allow phones or cameras into their show. What are your thoughts on that? And what if Kiss did the same thing for this event?
I don't like it at all. I think that is potentially very dangerous. And I'll tell you why.
Tell me why.
You have kids, right?
Yeah.
Okay, they have your phone. You can't answer it, right? If there's an emergency at home, what happens? What do you do?
Yeah, look, this is the world we live in now. Where
I know,
has
but that sounds like a big liability, God forbid.
That's a good point. I wonder if you have to sign something ahead. Because what's going to happen is, from what I've read in the Bon Jovi show, they're going to put your phone into like a bag that you have on you. So maybe if your phone's vibrating and you can see who it is, you'll know, oh, it's my kids, and you can step out of the arena or whatever.
It's got to be. That's very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
Or maybe from the bag that you can't take video. It's got some sort of, it stays in the bag. I don't know. But I'm sure this had to be thought about because that's a loss, a bad loss.
And there are concerts sometimes that do that. I've never been to one, but I've heard of concerts where they do that, where they're having people lock their phones in bags. What would your thoughts be if Kiss decided to do that? And I know I've seen plenty of people online say, "Oh, I don't need to buy a ticket. I can watch the videos on YouTube." What if there were no videos on YouTube? You still don't have a ticket to go. You're back and forth mentally if you're gonna go.
Yeah.
If there's no videos on YouTube and you hear H. Frehley was there and he performs with them, do you feel like, I don't even get to see it on YouTube?
Yeah,
now?
Of course.
Yeah.
I usually wait for your videos. Let's be honest.
Right.
So does Bruce and other people, but Bruce will be there, so he won't have to wait for your videos.
He won't have to wait for my videos.
Yeah.
But do you think Kiss would ever think of trying to do something like that?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I mean, I don't like it. I don't like it. To me, and I'm just going to be brutally honest here, if you don't think you could perform well enough that you're afraid that something's going to happen, then don't perform. Right. That's my feeling on this. What do you have to hide?
Right.
The best part, and I was telling you a story earlier about, I did a performance a week ago and I mangled something on the guitar solo, and it was live music. It's like, shit happens. It does. Now, I'm nowhere near the stage of that, but you still have a sense of pride, and whether I'm playing in front of 5 people or Kiss's pay or whatever's playing in front of, what is it, 2,500? What is
2,500.
it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You still take great pride in what you do. Right. Nobody wants to be embarrassed, but that's the world we used to live in.
Right.
It was a very, very imperfect world live, and I was watching, I don't know what I was watching recently on YouTube. Oh, I was watching one of my new, not even new favorite band. I always loved Huey Lewis and the News, but I'd never really realized like how good of a band they were.
Right.
I mean, they have great songs, but they were a great band, and I got turned on to it. And I may have mentioned this before on one of the other podcasts, so excuse me if I did, but one of the guitar players. And my point being is I was watching their live shows, and they were live shows.
Right.
There was no friggin' auto-tune. There was not, and they sounded great because they were schooled in what they did. They practiced. It was obvious. And now you just put on a device that, if I go out of pitch or whatever,
Right.
I mean, this has been documented so many times. And
I have mixed feelings with the Bon Jovi thing because I agree with what you just said. If you can't cut it, and to John's credit, he's been very open about what he can and can't do. But if you can't cut it, then you shouldn't perform. Saying that, though, I don't want to be a hypocrite. A, we know Paul struggles with his voice, and we know everything that the band's done there for a few years. B, I never had a problem with the Vinnie Vincent events where people weren't allowed to film because it added a certain amount of exclusive feeling of being there, and it wasn't that, I didn't go, but I could watch the whole thing on YouTube. So I get that thought process, and from that point of view, maybe I'm stuck in 1977, like you often are, but I don't necessarily have a problem with not having phones at concerts. Number one, I think it just adds to the overall experience for people who are at the shows. Number two, it adds a little bit to that exclusive feeling of, hey, I paid a lot of money for a particular event, and everybody else can't just watch it on YouTube. So I kind of go back and forth with the Bon Jovi thing. On one hand, I'm like, I hope they're not doing this because they're afraid to have videos of John up on YouTube, which might be the case. I hope it's more so, hey, we want to have this exclusive event for fans where we're going to do deep cuts for them or whatever, and we want that to be exclusive to the fans that paid money to be here. I don't know. I have mixed feelings.
Well, when you paint the picture that way, it does make you think a little bit more. But I'm still going to be kind of more leaning towards. Again, I don't know what the restrictions are, or what you're going to still be able to do. Like I said, they must have something because it seems like they're a huge liability if, God forbid, a family member needs to get in touch with and it was locked in a bag and, and you couldn't answer that call, God forbid, of anything.
Yep.
That just seems,
I'm sure they've thought that through.
Yeah.
And look, maybe what I read about locking up the phones is wrong, but I saw it somewhere online yesterday that said that's what Bon Jovi's going to be doing at the show. So, and it wouldn't surprise me, but that's not the Kiss event. The Kiss event, they have not said they're doing that. I've not heard those words even mentioned, but it's just, since the two events are very similar, Bon Jovi's is a 3-day thing, Kiss is a 3-day thing, Bon Jovi's in Nashville, Kiss is in Vegas, but it's the same concept.
Yeah.
At least with what's announced so far, the Kiss event seems like you're getting more bang for your buck, and it's actually a little bit cheaper than the Bon Jovi one. The Bon Jovi one, this kind of annoyed me a little bit. I never mentioned this to you. They're giving you a signed item, but it's signed only by John. I was like, well, there's some other original members of that band still there, number one. Number two, if I'm going to see the band Bon Jovi, even though, let's be honest, John is the band, right? But I wanted something signed by the whole band. So if you were going to that, do you want, like if the Kiss thing, if it was only signed by Paul and Gene, how would you feel about that?
And not Tommy?
And not Tommy, and not Bruce, who's going to be there?
Yeah, no, listen, I wanted all the signatures. And you know me, I'm not a big autograph guy, but if I'm at an event like that, I don't want to be kind of deprived of, whatever artists are there. I think they should be signing,
Yeah.
I mean, they have to get, they do these events, you go to a meet and greet, what is it now, $100 on
least,
average, right?
At least, yeah.
So I understand that. I get it,
Yep. No, to me, I would hope, let's say Eric's not there for a moment, then create some kind of image, a picture, a painting, whatever it is, of Gene, Paul, Tommy, Bruce, and whoever else may or may not be there. But I want that picture signed by all of them. I don't want it only signed by Paul and Gene. And I thought that instantly when I saw the Bon Jovi thing, that only signed by John, that's kind of not cool.
Yeah.
Now, the press release that went out for the Vegas thing did say signed by the members of the band Kiss, or whatever, a band signed picture, or whatever. So it didn't say only Paul and Gene. So my guess is that it will be signed by everybody, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, especially if Singer is not there. What constitutes Kiss at that point? Because now let's say it the other way. If Brian Tishy's playing drums with them, I don't know that I want Brian Tishy's autograph on that Kiss item now. He's not a Kiss member, with no disrespect to him. He's a great drummer.
Well, you make a fair point there.
So that's where it becomes like a gray area here.
But also, let's face facts too. I mean, this really applies to you because you have tons of autographs of tons of events. So if you have the one where it's Brian Tishy, does it really so much take away from that? Right?
It doesn't.
But if this is the one thing you went to, you might not want that. If you understand my point.
I do understand your point. And look, on the Kiss cruises, the last two I went on, I did get items autographed by every band that was on the cruise.
Yes, I remember you would bring the poster you would
Right,
make.
exactly. So I think that's cool, but if it's a Kiss poster, I only want members of Kiss signing that.
Well, what if the Kiss poster has the other people on there?
That would be cool.
Then you would want those
Yeah,
signatures,
if it's
right?
an event poster that celebrates the weekend and it mentions the other bands on there, you can have every signature on there. In fact, I would go around trying to collect as many signatures as I can on that. If it's a Kiss-specific poster, then I'd probably just want it signed only by the Kiss members. But
I could see that.
yeah, but look, there's still, 5 more months, 6 more
Yeah.
months to go until the event happens, and my gut tells me there'll be more announcements with other bands and other artists, maybe even other members of Kiss, current or ex. Not that there's any current members, I guess, anymore, but you get the point.
Yeah.
So I think time will tell on this, which is what I keep saying. So anything else you could think of that we want to update, since our last one only a week ago was already outdated hours after we posted it?
I know, it's crazy.
And who knows, maybe this one will be outdated by the time we get to post it also.
No, I think that's it. I mean, I think this is not going to be our last conversation about it.
I'm sure it won't be our last one. Although it'll probably be our last one face to face like this.
I don't think we'll probably be doing this for quite some time again. Not because we don't like each other, it's just the the commute for,
Yes, either one of us, it's an hour and a half drive each way.
Yeah.
And although today's lunch was quite pleasing.
I made it worth your while.
I made it worth my while, yes. So,
Yes.
so that he's a good host for anybody who's wondering.
Same way, so except when he burnt my corn. Which I sent you the picture the other day.
Yes, that's very funny. Was that one of your friend's house that you were at with, or was that my burnt corn?
That was yours.
Okay,
that was the actual burnt corn.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was you were at somebody else who burnt
I was
your
going
corn.
through my pictures like, aha!
Yes. I think it's the one and only time I've ever burnt corn on cob in my life.
And we're not going to say who was to blame with that, but it certainly wasn't you.
That was certainly not me. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, you guys all let us know what you think of the announcements that came up in the last week. Do you think Eric Singer will be announced at some point? What other bands do you expect them to bring in? Talking about the Bon Jovi event, comparing it to the Kiss one, what do you guys think of what Bon Jovi's doing with the locking up the phones? And what do you think of this face-to-face format? Again, this is the special treat. One time only.
It's a real treat.
Yes.
Is that the thing Paul would say?
Yes, exactly.
Real
I have a member of my family here today. But let us know what you think. What do you think is going to be coming up with the Vegas event? And till that, I guess this will be the in-person.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah!
Alrighty, there you have it. Some of our thoughts and comments on the latest information on the Kiss Storm's Vegas event. We also gave some thoughts and comments on the Bon Jovi event in Nashville, and we look forward to seeing and reading your thoughts as well. As always, all opinions are welcome, and there's no right or wrong answers. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.